I'll delve into our conversation on the show this afternoon with my guest, Tena Otese, who is an associate director of Ehizua Enterprise Hub, director of the creative technology, also in Ehizua Hub, a hub championing access to quality education, narrowing digital space, an IT expert he is, joining me on the show this afternoon. Let's walk through. Good afternoon, Tena.
Good afternoon, Lawrence.
Good to have you.
Same here, thank you.
All right. You heard my intro of
Yes.
what IT and IT is all about and all that. As an IT personnel that you are,
Yeah.
do you have a different perception about that intro?
Well, not necessarily.
Okay.
In today's world, as we know it,
Yeah.
the digital space is continually evolving, yeah? So if we are looking at advancement in ICT, ETC, and how we can apply that to, national development as it is, it is just as important to look at the crucial role ICT actually plays in key areas of national development, yeah?
Okay.
Because we know that at this stage of Nigeria's development, for example, we have no other choice than to deploy what ICT can actually bring to the table.
Okay.
Because we know that the industrial revolution is fast going, expanding, because it's no longer narrowing. Before now, when you talk about ICT, it was all about, okay, how do I use the system?
Yeah.
How do I access the internet? Now it has expanded into something much more than that, because this is where the world is headed, and we might as well prepare for that. So in terms of having a different perspective to what you just shared, not necessarily. Okay. I think it's more or less like enhancing what we already know is present in today's world,
Okay, talking about, you made mention of what it brings to the table.
Yeah.
Talking about what it brings to the table, what are some of these things that IT or ICT could actually bring to the table, different from what it was or what it were before now?
Well, in the context of national development, let's look at economic growth, for example.
Okay.
ICT is helping businesses, entrepreneurs with smart tools, It's improving or driving financial inclusion through mobile banking and all of that. And it's also creating more access to job opportunities through digital platforms and fintech or financial technology, if you may. That's just in one single area alone, economic development. Now, if you go down to education and digital literacy, as we speak, individuals are getting prepared to adapt to the future of work, learning, and research. This is where the world is, right? So it simply just means that with digital training, you give individuals that power to be able to, function in a digital world. Because we know that beyond the four walls of the classroom, it's gone beyond, beyond the four walls of the classroom, it's just as important to understand that education or digital literacy has gone way beyond that, right? Now you can have access to open source platforms, you can have access to virtual libraries, you can have access to as many other platforms that can allow you to learn and learn at a fast pace, because that is where we are headed as it is. That's true, right?
Okay.
In the area of security, today, everywhere in Nigeria, we keep talking about issues of insecurity. How do you even leverage ICT? It's very simple. Well, not necessarily simple per se, but in speaking terms, it's simple. Now, it's simple how? It's very simple. In the area of surveillance systems, comprehensive surveillance systems, the only way you can do that, right? The only way you can do that is invest in that area. Because if you are going to combat insecurity at any level, then you have to build a comprehensive surveillance system that can allow you to do that. That's one aspect. The other aspect is cybersecurity threats. Today we keep hearing of fraud. We keep hearing of Yahoo boys. How do you even combat that when you have it so widespread? Okay? What that means essentially is you simply just need to put those measures in place. And how do you do that matters, because without having any of that, it doesn't work. there's no way that you can actually combat insecurity if you don't have all of these apparatus assisting the security architecture that we already have in Nigeria.
Okay.
Okay, that's a third aspect.
Yeah.
And another aspect is agriculture.
Yeah.
We keep talking about, or we keep having conversations around achieving food security in Nigeria, or even in Africa as it is. How do you even do that? Now, with ICT, what that helps to do is you have precision farming. And how do you do that? It gives you information that can allow you to be able to deploy that. For farmers, example, right? If we're talking precision farming, then it's just as important for you to key into that aspect of it. Like weather forecast, for example.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's basically what it means in terms of guiding you from season to season, what you need to do, what seeds to plant, and all of that, right? That's just another aspect of it.
Yeah.
Now, if you go a little further, you will also look at infrastructural development as a third area that has to do with national development. Now, what does this even mean? Does this imply that once without the right infrastructure is going to work? No, it won't. In fact, all of the three areas, without infrastructural development, it's not going to work, right? So if you're talking infrastructural development, then you might as well look at increased investment in that area, broadband connectivity, energy solutions, right? Because that way, it is easier to build on something that allows you, to have access to all of this and be able to build something that is sustainable over time. Because it's not just having it. It has to exist over time. You have to be able to sustain it. So those are just some areas that ICT can be leveraged on.
Okay, let's look at the safety of the ICT in itself, because you made mention of people who are into fraud, like in quote, Yahoo. And it's still the system called ICT that is seemed to make use of. Now, looking at the safety of the space, ICT space, do you think the space is safe enough for people to delve into it without having fear of some kind of doubt per se? Everybody heard of the whole CBEX scam that happened recently, motivated via ICT. There is a company that they said is attached to that system, a technology company per se. They're into ICT. So the space generally, do you think is safe enough for people to have a confidence to want to invest in it?
Now, when you are looking at the broader aspect of ICT, whether we like it or not, where there are potentials, there are challenges.
Definitely.
Right? And if you want to also look at how you can combat or mitigate against such actions like maybe fraud and all of that, then you need cybersecurity professionals, right? Data analytics, because that way, these two work together. They can work together. Data analysis can look at the whole, analyze the entire situation, and proffer solutions or recommendations for a cybersecurity professional to implement, right? So, in as much as there are challenges, in as much as we are looking at or other people who are looking to also, leverage on that and maybe commit something or crime or whatever, it doesn't change the fact that within that space, it is still safe enough if you do the right things. Because you need to have the right security architecture, you need to have the right people, you need to have the right experts, you need to consult with the right people and all of that. That way it's easier. You may not limit it completely, you may not eliminate it completely, but at least it gives you a measure of security. It
gives a measure of security. All right, before I go for my next question, we'll take a short break on the show. After the break, we'll continue with the conversation. Let's go on a short break on the program. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. We're still talking ICT, information and communication technology, a tool for national development. And I have an ICT expert who has been with me in the studio and still with me in the studio, Tena Otese, an ICT development expert, Associate Director, I-Enterprise Ehizua Hub, and Director, Creative Technology Information Ehizua Hub, one of the hub championing, quality ICT education within, around us, still with me in the studio, taking a look into ICT. Now, let's look at our developmental rate as a nation. Some persons will tell you we aren't ripe yet to get involved in some of these things we try to delve into. Because if you ask me per se, if we're really ripe as a people, I don't think there will be need for every election period we have to go to the sun to queue to vote. Why can't we just sit down, the comfort and the confine of our home, the way I lie or lay on my bed and do transfer? I don't know if you get.
So why that you should
exactly.
Vote, yes.
The same way I should be able to vote without going to queue in the sun, election result being manipulated. Can't they just be, as a nation, as a people, do you think we are really, really ready to embrace ICT to boost our growth?
Well, how do you get ready? You get ready by taking out the challenge.
All right.
Right? It is unfortunate that within the government, there's still issues of corruption and all of that, election rigging, etc. Of course, it takes time, right, for a lot of this, for these things to be able to be effective. Okay, if the government, for example, is looking at ways that that will allow them to be corrupt, you can still do it. Okay. Right? How do you even do that? By demanding for accountability. Okay, because that's where it comes down to. Okay, take the aspect of e-governance, for example. What do you do? What exactly does that mean? It simply means that the government is supposed to put all their information about reforms and policies online for people to access.
Absolutely.
That's where it is also easier to, promote efficiency, right, and accountability. But beyond that, citizens themselves need to wake up to the call. They need to say, you know what, we put you there. If we are talking about the government of the people, then what that means is we need to be able to call you to order when things are not working right. If I want to vote, I should be able to vote anywhere. It doesn't matter whether I'm in the country or I am
outside the country,
or I'm settled in diaspora countries. It doesn't matter. The most important thing is me being able to vote. And it doesn't stop at just voting. Okay. I should be able to see what the results should be. Exactly. Like the counting. Good. Like the counting that is usually done at the collation center. For God's sakes, if you have that counting done there and it's properly monitored, there shouldn't be a question of maybe after
whether it was everything
changes.
The number changes, the figure changes.
Okay, look at the problem we had in the 2023 elections.
The election,
Beavers and what? IREV. What exactly happened there? Okay, for the presidential election, we all know that suddenly it wasn't working. But for every other, it did. But that's to tell you that it's not as if the system can't work. Okay. It can. It can, but again, go back to the same thing I said before. You have to involve the right people. You have to do the right things. Okay. That way, it is easier to demand accountability and actually get it at the end of it.
So talking about involving the right people, who should be these right people that are involved? Is it anybody who is just with a computer working, or someone who is grounded or groomed in information and communication technology?
Of course, you need to have professionals that you can consult with, right? Before the government can do anything, they must have that wild consultation.
Absolutely.
They must be able to bring in people, professionals, experts that can give them recommendations, that can make suggestions, right? That can help them build better and secure platforms, e.g., right? IREF. Okay. That way, when you have that in place, it would work. That's just what it comes down to. It will work. We can talk from now till tomorrow and all of that. If the right people are not in place, it won't. Definitely. If the right system is not in place, it won't. But if you have all of these people, these experts, these professionals, whatever, that you are consulting with and they're advising, and you are taking
their advice.
Because you have to take it for you to be able to implement that. Right? And reflect that in your policies and reforms or whatnot. That way it is easier to do it, yes. Okay.
Let's look at the embracement. How are we embracing it? Whether the young, the elderly, the old, the very old. Do you think we're embracing information and communication technology enough?
In Africa, it is gradual. Okay. Now, it is gradual in the sense that there's still very poor infrastructure.
Okay.
Right? The digital divide is still very wide.
Okay.
Right? In as much as you have a lot of talks going back and forth, even within the classroom and outside the walls of the classroom. Right? So it is slow, but again, this is where you expect both private partnership, public-private partnership to function. PPP. Okay? Because that way, you can get people ready. You can start with the young people. Because for we, the older ones, well,
you really think you're older?
Like I'm a very young
What is the older? Look at me, you're 60, 70. Okay.
But relatively.
Yeah, relatively.
Right? Relatively. We can start with the young ones. Right from primary school to secondary school and onwards. You must introduce them to that education early. You must introduce them to the skills early.
Okay.
Now, beyond the conventional courses or the subjects that we have, we are talking cybersecurity, data analytics, digital marketing, and whatnot. These are increased avenues for learning.
Yeah.
We are talking artificial intelligence, right? Generative AI tool has become so popular today. When we're talking about ChatGPT, we are talking about Microsoft Copilot, etc. Right? It just tells you that the world is moving. Now, the only way that we can get ready is to get ready. There's no two ways around it, which means that our schools need to be fully equipped. Yeah. Which means our teachers need to understand what they are teaching. Because now, when ChatGPT came on board, the first thing schools did was they frowned.
They frowned about it?
Yes, they did. Because you can't blame them really, because students were misusing it.
For the wrong thing.
For the wrong thing. Yeah. Maybe, for example, they give you an assignment or you need to do a research and you just go and just copy and paste. But guess what ChatGPT can do for you? You can learn anything and everything. It doesn't mean that you must have a certificate.
Basically.
Because remember that it breaks it down to the smallest concepts for you to understand. So application is very important. Application is very important. The schools, all they need to do, or all our schools need to do, the government, the school owners, whatnot, the parents, teachers, association, whatever, need to all come together and say, you know what? We need to build a better system. Okay. We need to build better schools. We need to make sure that our students or our wards, once they leave school, they should be able to work anywhere. Okay. They should be exposed enough to say, you know what? I can sit down in Nigeria and work abroad, remote work. Yeah? So it comes down to the system. We need better systems to get ready.
Okay, as we wrap up in the next 1-2 minutes, talking about better system, how do we achieve it and how should people be able to put in their mind, whether the people, the government, every stakeholders in this sector, we should be able to achieve this?
On the side of the government, increased investment is important. Okay. Public-private partnership is just as important. Okay. Right? Because we need to get these things done. Yeah. And if Nigeria today is still talking about the digital economy, how do you even build a thriving digital economy? Okay. You have to make sure that the right things are done. So if you invest properly and then you create regulations that promote the same environment, then of course we will get there, because that's one of the key solutions really. Okay. You know, so that's when it comes down to.
So talking about the people, who are the components?
As for the people, well, it starts with reorientation. Okay. Right? We need to understand, again, I go back to being relative, young person, old person. Yeah. We need to understand that the world is moving really fast, it's evolving. Yeah. And the only way that you can catch up is by making sure that you embrace any information that comes that is useful and be able to apply that information. China, for example, deployed utilized the third industrial revolution, artificial intelligence, fourth industrial revolution. Okay. That was how they became a super body. Now we are talking about phones being manufactured by secondary school students, for God's sake.
In China.
And then they send them over to us in Nigeria, or even in Africa, or some other countries. And then we hold that phone and we are like, oh my God, there's this. But guess what? If you have the right, the mindset, the right mindset to say, you know what, I understand this information for what it is. and I intend to, if I feel that I am too old,
Okay.
then my son or my daughter
Will be able to do
should
it.
be pushed towards that,
Okay.
so that they can get that information
All right.
and be able to apply it.
Thank you very much, Tena Otese. We're pressed for time. We need to go right now. My PD is already telling me we have to go. Thank you for your time. Tena Otese is an ICT expert, the Associate Director and Enterprise of Ehizo Creative Hub here in Benin, India, into grooming young ones into becoming ICT professionals. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
That's the
again
size of
for
our
having me.
package on the show this afternoon. God willing, next week we'll be here again to run you through another interesting topic. On behalf of my team, we thank you for investing your quality time with us. I see you again on the other one. That was going to be in a new month, in the month of May next month. I'm Lawrence Osifo. Bye for now.